Hi, this is Jolly Rancher and Kneecaps. Today we're going to go over the gear that I was using on my Appalachian Trail through hike during the summer 2009. Now we're going to talk about tents. When I left in February, this is the tent that I started out with. This is the Kelty Teton 2. It's a two-person tent. It weighs 67 ounces, which is 4 pounds 3 ounces. That weight, I took out the footprint for it, and I removed a couple of the tent stakes because I only found I needed to carry 3 with me. The reason I chose this tent was because it was well reviewed online. There was a lot of people that liked it, and of course the dog. I did my through hike with Harley here. He came 1,500 miles on the trail with me. He made it about 3/4 of the way along the trail. And so, as you'll see on the inside here, there's plenty of room for me, my pack, and my dog, and his pack as well. I found that it was great. I had a lot of elbow room, and I really liked that. It's also fairly lightweight, especially for a two-man tent. It weighs 4 pounds 3 ounces, like I said, and you can get it new for only 150 bucks, which is a pretty good deal for a lightweight two-person tent. It held up very well in the weather. We had a lot of rain on the trail, obviously, and it's got a very simple design, 2 cross poles from corner to corner, and the vestibule goes over the top. And I didn't get wet at all. Like I know some of my trail mates did get wet, depending on what tent they were using. It's just a really good, simple design, and I really liked using it. Disadvantages of this tent were it's a little bit on the heavy side when you look at a two-person tent. There are some cheaper, well, not cheaper, there are lighter but more expensive options, but for me this was the right decision. And obviously if you are through hiking on your own, you do not need a two-person tent, though it is a very nice tent to have. So overall I thought it was a pretty decent tent, a pretty good option if you need a two-person tent. What I ended up doing about 3/4 of the way through the trip was sending this tent home and trading, actually borrowing a tent from one of my trail buddies, which is called the Henry Shire's Tarp Tent Squall 2. That tent, which I don't have here to show you, I'm sorry, is a two-person 32-ounce, 2-pound tent for $230. It's a two-person tent, but the difference between this tent and the Henry Shire's Tarp tent is this is a double wall tent, so you have the tent and then the vestibule over the top of it, whereas the Henry Shire's Tarp tent is a single wall design, so it doesn't have a vestibule, but the tent portion of it is waterproof. Overall, I thought this was a brilliant design because instead of using traditional tent poles like this, it uses your hiking poles as the structure for it. So usually, for me, I always hike with trekking poles, so that saved weight for me because I could use these during the day to hike, but then also use them at night to set up my tent. It's a single wall design, like I said. It's very well thought out, and it packs down very small. And when you compare that this is a two-person tent weighing 4 pounds 3 ounces, and the Henry Shire's tent is a two-person tent weighing 2 pounds, that's a significant weight savings when you're hiking down the trail. I would highly recommend that tent, and I hope to purchase one for myself in the future. Other tents that you might want to consider are over here. We have an example of an MSR Hubba tent. This is actually the Hubba HP, which is the super lightweight version of it. It's a bit more expensive than the regular version. The normal version weighs 3 pounds 6 ounces and costs $280. This HP version weighs 3 pounds, so it saves 6 ounces due to the materials that it uses, and it costs $350. So if you want to pay $70 more, you can save 6 ounces, which is a pretty good savings. Overall, it's a great lightweight tent. It's very well designed, but it is a little bit expensive, like I said. It does pack down very small. And the one thing I really do like about this tent is the spine on the tent. What I mean by that is the way the tent poles are organized. Instead of having, like in this tent, the Kelty tent, you have 2 cross poles going from opposite corners. This tent has one single pole that runs up and down either side of it, but it has these spars that splay out to the corners. So you do save a lot of weight there. Instead of having two poles that go the entire length of the tent, you only have one pole, but it splits out at the ends and also in the middle. I really like that tent. I think it's a very well designed tent, and I did see it quite often on the trail being used by other thru hikers. That's structured. So instead of having two cross poles, you have two kind of in the middle and one up here. Another tent that I would recommend, which one of my other friends used, was the REI Quarter Dome T1 tent. It's a one-person tent weighing 3 pounds 6 ounces and costs $200. It was probably the second most popular design on the trail, and it's just another very well-designed tent manufactured by REI. Okay, so that's an overview of tents that you can have while on the trail. Next thing we're going to discuss is sleeping bags.